what's ahead of us is a presentation from Marcin Ziarnik. So before I hand over to Marcin, you have to know that myself and him, we met at job interview here in Motorola some time ago. And I know that Marcin loves BMW and he even owns one. And I think, Marcin, you will correct me, but I think you worked for them or for their vendors. Okay, yeah,
yes,
for the vendors.
Yes, I was working for the vendors.
However, it seems like there is a better way of living, being an Agile coach and facilitating Agile transformations in IT companies. So this is what Marcin is doing these days. So I have a pleasure to introduce 7 deadly sins of Agile transformation as seen and as witnessed by Marcin. So stage is yours, sir.
Thank you, Michał, for that intro. And I will just start sharing. Oh, okay. Yes. And we will go straight to our topic. So,
I'm sorry, Marcin, one more thing. To anybody who has joined us right now, there is a Slack channel dedicated to this and every other lecture where you're welcome to submit your questions, because we don't have opportunity to use voice in the meeting. Sorry, I'm shutting up.
Okay, don't worry. So like Michał said, if you have any questions, please put them into the Slack channel, and I will try to keep it as short as possible to have still some time to answer those questions. So the 7 deadly sins of Agile transformation is based on my experience working as a Scrum Master, as an Agile coach, and we will be talking about 7 points which can be done to prove that Agile transformation is total waste of money and time. So first we will start with who am I, and I'm the Scrum Master and Agile coach. Why I'm using this both titles? Because in my mind, Agile coach and Scrum Master should have the same skills, the same attitude, and having Scrum Master who cannot work with the organization is something maybe not the best, and also having Agile coach who don't have any idea how to build Agile teams is also quite another position in which we would like to be. So I'm 32 still, and I am the Scrum guy. So although I graduated as a project manager, I was back then already a Scrum Master, working and having some thoughts about how the things are done in the industry. So short disclaimer, every time when I will talk about the project, I will refer to the project management frameworks. So product defined at the start, staged approach to deliver the product, and we all know that as a waterfall. So let's start with the top management. Sometimes they have this unhealthy interest in agile teams, in the speed of how people work. Sometimes they even think that it can help us to do those projects faster. And this is something which sometimes you can see in your environment. I saw this a few times in my life. And having this make me want to ask one question, because if the top management, people who are responsible for the organization which delivers the product, are spending that much time on dealing with the team's problems, then the question is, who is holding the steering wheel of this vehicle? If there is somebody who is doing their work for them. So the first point which I would like to highlight is this unhealthy interest in agile teams by the top management, also known as a top-down management. The second point which I would like to highlight is that sometimes you see in your organization that the agile transformation is a goal. A goal is to complete the transformation, but there are no other goals. What does it mean to be agile at the end? How we will measure that? How it will help with our business? Those are the questions which are sometimes unanswered. And this setting of the goal is really, really important thing in this transformation, because like in previous presentation, you already heard that completing the transformation cannot be the goal. It is the journey, but we would like to achieve some business values based on this transformation. So setting up the goals, and setting up the goals not only for the transformation, but also for the middle management, so that the middle management have the goals connected with the transformation which is ongoing. And as we already said about having an agile transformation as something which can be completed, then there is this tempting thing that maybe we can define it as a project. Maybe we can define all of the possible activities which are needed to become agile, let's say, make them, complete them, mark them checked, and say, okay, we are agile right now and we will be agile forever. And if we already trying to define the transformation as a project, then maybe we can outsource this project. Maybe we can find a company which will do it for us. Maybe we can establish independent function within the organization, which will be not bounded with the rest, and they will take care of completing this project. Of course, those are not the best examples of how you can deal with the things. And all of them are leading me to the fact that it's very often that there is no vision, no involvement from the top management in the agile transformation. So this is the first scene of the transformation. Those are the people who can set up the goals, who can set up the rules. And if they don't understand their role in the transformation, then it's a problem. It's a problem not only for us as an agile coaches, but also for the organization. So because it's like expecting the change without causing this change. And the top management need to realize their role in the transformation, and the fact that the transformation will change the way the business is done. And how can it be done? We can try to access them. If we are starting in a place in which we cannot access people who can decide, maybe we can work with the middle management for a while, prove that we have some interesting discussions to be made, and maybe we can move up. I tried it a few times, and it works that you can move up if you have something interesting to say. And sometimes it's enough to ask, what are your top 3 business goals for the next year, and how the agile transformation can help you with achieving them. Without this, all will be just a facade. So without having the business goals for the transformation, without having this involvement of the top management, we will just have the facade of the transformation. So we will go to the next point, which is, as you see, this is the beautiful drawing which I made yesterday. Some organizations are making the products. Some are working on the services, but some of them are making the products and they are selling them. And whatever we are doing, we want to sell our product and make money on selling this product. So we can do it by setting up the series of the projects. This usually takes longer, lead us to having less releases, but it is possible. We can, for each phase, we can have one project, and we can deliver this product to the customers and take a look how they receive that. The other way is to do the same, so manage the product using the iterations, like using Scrum or something else, some other agile methodologies, frameworks, sorry. So what is the difference here? Usually the difference is that all of the phases here are done the same time, because we are structuring the work on the product different way. And at the end of every iteration, it should be possible to release this product to the market, which doesn't mean that we will do that, because it's like the perfect situation for the product manager / product owner, that he has all of the cards in his hand and he is deciding how to play with those cards and when to play each card. So he is having a lot of potentially releasable increments, and he is managing them. So this is the other way. Usually iterations are shorter, but somehow some people confused the product management with the project management. So this is very common, to be honest, in the industry, that people think, okay, so our business is to deliver those projects. And then they see something like, oh, there is this agile thing. Maybe we can use that to speed up those projects. And the result can be seen here. So we still have the staged approach, but somewhere in the middle, we have our Scrum implementation or the Agile implementation. And now that the question is, do you see this Agile here? I see it is very small, but to be honest, what changed in terms of the time to market? Because I see that the time to market is the same. You need to complete all of the steps to be able to release something. Then the second question is, what happened to the role of the product owner? Because if the product owner is defined in Scrum and Scrum is just one of the steps, then the question comes, what is the product? Is it the implementation? Is it the documentation? Is it the architecture? I'm doubting in it, to be honest, but this is something which is very common in our industry. And now the question is how to avoid that. So whatever we are doing, at the end of the day, we are creating some products and we are sending those products to the market. So whatever you are doing, you can focus on the product management, how it helps with the product management. It doesn't mean that you need to have Scrum at all, to be honest. I know some companies who were using very short projects, like 2-month project, to deliver the MVP to the market, or the 1-month project. From the view of the product management, this is way better than having this waterfall thing, which doesn't change anything when you take a look on the product management. So whatever you do, make sure that it fits and it helps with the product management. And why I'm placing here the validated learning loop is that they were, at the start, they were two things. There was validated learning thing with entire lean startup theory, and there was Scrum. But nowadays, Scrum, the modern Scrum, is all about this. So defining the MVP, building this MVP, measuring this with the customers, and learn on this and adjust what we are doing. This is perfect for the product management. So the next point, let's start with the thing which is also common, that we need to face sometimes with the contracts which have fixed scope, time, budget. Payment is at the end of the contract or after some milestones defined in a old style. And it doesn't need to be a problem, because sometimes the business domain looks like that you only have those fixed, maybe not fixed scope time but contracts, but fixed time and things like that, and you are not releasing after every iteration. Because, for example, you need to train a few thousand people in using this, so that's why you are not releasing every week. But you can define your customer testing group, for example. You can test with the stakeholders. So it's not like you are completely out of the feedback loops. But sometimes people, when they don't feel this pressure of having this in the contract, they say, okay, it needs to be ready on SOP because we are getting the money there. And it all falls down in a thing which I call fail slow, don't learn, which is a complete opposite to fail fast, learn fast. But this is happening. And the next point, which comes to this, is that if you are having those long contracts and you are having the product at the end, then your investment is really high and you are frozen your money for very long. And once I was discussing this with the consultant for the investments, and he asked me, what are you doing in your job? And I said, okay, so you are working with the banks, yeah? So you remember how a few years ago, the release of the mobile app or the web version for the mobile for the banking was maybe once a year, because it was fulfilled with the old project management frameworks. And right now, the best banks are able to do it every day. So I'm convincing people that this change is needed and this change is possible. And the guy said that, okay, but from the investment point of view, this is perfect situation, because if you are releasing, then your investment is already working for you on the market. So you are getting some return on your investment and you are not frozen your money for that long. So the next one is a high level of risk for the investors. Once again, if you are investing in a project which will show you the product after 2 years, this is the problem for you as an investor. And this leads me to the conclusion that the first sin is all of the business processes. So budgeting, contracting, reporting. If all of them are defined in the old way, then there is very small space for agility here, because this, what you see, is something which is called earned value in the project management frameworks. And my math teacher told me that basing all the on the false assumption, you can prove whatever you want. And this this chart is all about the assumptions. So the first assumption here is that the planned value is something like 100% of the planned value equals 100% of the planned work. So you need to do all of the work to have your value. And from the other side, how to track where you are when you don't have the product on the hand. You cannot inspect this because the product is not existing. You are maybe in the analysis phase. So there is something like the earned value, which is strictly connected to how much work was done, how much money was spent on work. And the assumption is that this is where we are. And this is where all of the discussions about are we behind the schedule, on the schedule, and so on starts. The difference between planned value and earned value causes the trouble that people say, okay, we are behind the schedule. But they don't have any other tool to check where we are. They are not budgeting based on releases. They are not contracting based on releases. They don't make like the product reviews inspecting a return on investment because there is no product. And the conclusion from here is that you don't need to necessarily have agile contracts at the start. You don't need to have all of the business processes changed at the start. But whatever you do, just make sure that it is not limiting your ability to learn, your ability to adjust to the market needs. You can go step by step. Sometimes the revolution is needed, but you can start with what you have and go step by step. So the next topic is starting with the bomb, literally, because probably all of us were in this situation where everything was fine until the release. And when the release came, when the testing started, everything blows up. And then the question is why we are not testing more often. Sometimes the testing takes a lot of time. It's like the real world example is that company of having like releases one every month spent 2 weeks on releasing. So all of the governance and all of the testing before the release took 2 weeks, and there was just 2 weeks for the development. And this is all related to the fact that your testing, your releases process might not be as efficient as teams or as it should be. And then when you think that it takes too long, you are moving it at the end, which causes even more problems. The second point which I would like to highlight is a lack of the data about product features usage and customers' behavior. I know some cases where companies even send people to the customer to ask them whether they are using this feature or not. And this is something which we can get from our product, because product can have the telemetry, the analytics inside, and we don't need to literally go to every of the customer and ask them whether they are using feature or not. This can be automated. And the last one from this point is that the stabilization period before release exists and it is long. So this is something strictly related to the bomb from the first picture. So if this is very long, we are moving the testing further back because the testing is so expensive and so long that we cannot accommodate frequent testing. So all of that comes to the one conclusion, that not having the DevOps infrastructure, not having the automated way to release your product and test your product is something which may lead to the big problems. Because if you want to have like even 1 month releases, but your testing is taking 2 or 3 weeks, then probably it will block you at the start. So when I'm thinking about Scrum, I'm thinking about frequent releases and frequent feedback also for the developers. And this is not possible without having the DevOps infrastructure. How to achieve the DevOps infrastructure? So if this is possible, if you are starting with the new product, maybe it's a good idea to start even before start working. You don't need to have like full DevOps infrastructure at the start, because it's even not possible, because you need to also adjust the infrastructure to the customer need. But what you can do is to define the starting point, which allows you to release fast and test fast. Then the thing is, if you have a product, then map the value stream for the product. So what needs to be done to complete and release the product, and check how much can be automated. Otherwise, when you are already ongoing with your product, the only way is to reduce the business scope to minimum, which enable to balance with the business stuff, and create this infrastructure along the way. Of course, this is not perfect, but this is probably the only way to do it. Otherwise, you will stuck in the place in which you cannot release because you don't have the tools. You are working like those coal miners from 100 years ago, when the tools are available on the market. So the next one, let's start with the really interesting point that in a lot of the organization, I saw that there are some we and them. So people from different functions are them. They are not human beings. They are dehumanized. There are something which you need to avoid. Somebody which you need to avoid. And I even once worked with the company which worked for the customer, and one of the engineers said, "Okay, so I get rid of those customers. I send them so much documentation that they will read this 1 month." So it's this kind of the approach. If you see this might be a sign of something bigger. The second point I would like to highlight in this topic is that sometimes most of the people in your organization never saw your product. They don't know how it works. They don't know how it looks. They never get the data from the market, how people are using it, whether they are liking it or not. And I have this good example when I was working still as a engineer, because I started my career as a engineer who designs the engines. And I started as a fresh one. The only experience which I had was building the engine for my rally car in my free time. And I met with the guys who were working like 2-3 years in the company, and they say, "We like this. We would like to have this experience because we are working here 2-3 years and we never saw those engines working." And it comes to the fact that they were so structured that they received some work, they do their work, and they send it further. And that's all. They never saw the product working. And the last thing which I would like to highlight related to this scene, which I will explain in a second, is the level of the bureaucracy. So we've got those departments, workflows from the department to the department. To get something done, you need to deal with the bureaucracy. You need to deal with the overprocessing. And it's really hard to focus on your product because you are focusing on the bureaucracy. And the scene which we are talking about here is the functional breakdown of the organization. So we all know that organizations are built with the functions. So we've got sales, mechanical engineering, software development, quality assurance, for example. And what really cross-functional mean is literally this, what you see here. So we've got a team which is across the functions in the organizations. Question is, if so, do we need to like plant the bomb and destroy everything and make the organization new? I would say no. You can map your value streams to the to know which functions are needed for your product, and you can build the teams around this. And then you will see whether it works or not, whether you need to keep the organizational structure the way it was, because maybe it will not be a problem, or you need to change the organizational structure. But this is something which is possible. And yes, like I said, it's as easy as this. And sometimes you are questioning yourself why people never try this when it's that easy. And the reason is that when you have those functional breakdowns, people build their positions around those functional breakdowns. And trying to dissolve those silos means that they feel afraid of their position, and they are blocking creation of the cross-functional teams. And this is something for sure which needs to be worked out with the top management, with the middle management, to create a space for creating cross-functional teams. Okay, so the next point is this strong belief that we need to work hard, that we need to be always busy, that having more tasks during our workday means more bang for the buck for the company. And I saw it working a few times, and what this causes to the people is enormous amount of stress, is the burnout of people. And even once I saw the person who was taken by the ambulance from the organization because of the attack of the panic, because there was so much to do, so much stress, so much pressure on working harder. So it's not about the sacrifice, because right now we are talking about the organization which thinks that people should be always busy, should always give 110% of their possible workload. But I would rather see people committed to the work they are doing and committed to the place in which they are working. So in Poland, we have this this phrase that if you have scrambled eggs with the bacon, you can see the difference between commitment and sacrifice, because scrambled eggs with bacon was made by the commitment of the chicken and the sacrifice of the pig. So it's not about the sacrifice, it's all about the commitment and people willing to work in this organization. And the second point here, which I would like to highlight, although people are giving their best and even more, in each of those organizations in which this let's say belief that working hard is really, really important, the results were very poor. So it leads me to the conclusion that maybe they are connected, that this cult of hard work and the poor results are connected. And this is our sin number 6, which is optimization of personal performance instead of performance of value streams, which you probably know as a utilization problem. So if people are fully utilized, they are inefficient. If the road is fully utilized, you are standing in a traffic jam. If the CPU in your computer is fully utilized, the computer is not working. So the thing is that we would like to optimize the performance of the value streams. So like you see on this picture, our value stream is a road and the left lane is completely empty. So if somebody would like to drive this way, he has all of the performance he needs. But on the other side, you have utilized road, which leads to the traffic jam. So the thing is that to have the really efficient organization, you need to have efficient value stream, not utilized people. So mapping the value streams, identifying bottlenecks, and taking care about them is a really good exercise for the management. And this also will leave some space for people, because busy people are not creative. They don't have the time, and they don't have the will to do this, because they think that the organization is playing against them. So they just want to avoid any troubles. So like I said, mapping value stream, identifying bottlenecks, working on the performance of the value stream. And the next point is, I saw this few times in my life, that there was strictly mechanical implementation of the Scrum, for example. And let's make a thought experiment. So if you have a team of the architects, software architects, and those guys need to work in a Scrum, you may define your product as an architecture. So let's think that the architecture is a product. What kind of the product? Let's say internal product. And then you have your customers. So if the product is internal, customers are also internal. So it might be the development team. So you have both sides. And then let's think about who can be our cross-functional team. So let's say we have 4 components in our product. So we need at least 4 architects, some seniors, some juniors, and who can be the product owner who have the most of the business knowledge about this, let's say, business domain. Probably the team lead of the architects. And add to this the Scrum Master, and we just created the functional silos and called that Scrum, a Scrum team. So something like this, when you see this, think about this more. And the second point, which I would like to highlight here, is that teams more mature than the organization. Sometimes you have this situation that, for example, you have team working like charm. They limit their work in progress. They are completing their work every day. Every day something flows out of the board. And they don't have the product owner, and they realize that their work doesn't have any value. It comes from the fact that the organization does not provide it the needed support for them. And this leads me to the last scene, which is transformation started and led bottom up. Because if you don't have any of the support from the middle or the top management, your transformation will end up there where you have your influence. If your influence is ending on the development, you will end up once again with this one. And as we discussed recently during the previous points, this doesn't change anything in terms of the time to market, in terms of learning, in terms of creating value. And this also promotes the dysfunctional forms of the product owner roles. So once again, the top management needs to realize that they are responsible for the change. This can go through the talks with them, through the working with them, and this change needs to come from the change in expectation and changing the rules. So just to wrap the things up, the 7 deadly sins of the agile transformation, which I think that can guarantee you that the lack of success is a lack of the vision and involvement from the top management, project focus instead of product focus, budgeting, contracting, reporting done the old way, lack of DevOps infrastructure, functional breakdown of the organization, optimization of the personal performance instead of performance of the value streams, and the transformation started and led bottom up. So I would say that right now there is a time for questions.
Thank you, Marcin. Yes, if you feel like you would like to ask something, you're very welcome to post your question on a dedicated Slack channel.
Okay. So we will wait.
Marcin, how about I share this? Would you like me to share Slack, or would you like to share it yourself? How do you prefer?
Oh, okay. Sorry for that.
Okay, so you will share.
You can share it.
Can I? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me kill your presentation.
Okay.
Hey guys, can you see? Can you see my screen, Marcin?
Yes.
All right. So how about you comment on what Janek has written?
Top layers support agile, lower. I will read that loud. What would be your advice to an enterprise having a multi-layer hierarchical structure in which top layers support agile, lower follow it, while business related are far from it or even not willing to follow? What would you recommend to begin the transformation of the ones not willing? So the thing is, there are some tools. For example, you can take a look on the Hoshin Kanri policy deployment. There is a interesting exercise there, which is called catchball exercise, and which is all about defining the goals for every layer of the organization. So the top management can define the goals which are related to the transformation for the lower level below, and along the way to the end, to the bottom of the organization. In this way, we ensure that everyone are on the same team, that we are playing to the same side. Yeah, that would be the advice. Different advice might be that talking with the top management, also related to the goals, but maybe they can establish some metrics which are related to the agility. For example, checking the ROI not once a year or after the project, but maybe checking the return of investment on the product once a quarter, once 2 months, for example. This also can drive the willing of the lower levels to participate the change.
Thanks. Thank you very much. I see somebody typing a question. So, oh, there it is.
Okay, so Ola asked, how can we engage and maybe teach top management when they claim they want agile company, but they behave in the opposite way, supporting waterfall? So this is really, really tough question, because like I said, the first point on my list was the engagement of the top management. And somehow we need to make them realize that the change which we are talking about is the change of the way the business is done. It cannot be, we cannot change this without changing the expectations of them. So we need to have somebody who can work with them. This is quite hard sometimes, because those people don't want to have new people in their circle. So this usually comes from the hard work on the lower levels, and like people who can promote you as, for example, agile coach, hire to talk with people higher. Okay, then the next one, map the value stream. Do you have in mind mapping product processes, or all processes take place in organization? Sometimes process is very complicated. What do you suggest? Divide such a stream into few streams. I would say I would start really simple. What needs to be done just to deliver it to the market? Like maybe for the start, I would focus on strictly product without supporting things, and then you can add them along the way. But I would not start with everything, because you might get lost in this mapping.
Thank you. I can't see any more questions. No, somebody's typing.
Yes. We've got Kiran also.
Yeah, there's another person typing, Karan.
Okay. So, which is my favorite Agile transformation book you recently read? So, to be honest, I really waited a long time to read the Lean Startup, and I just completed that like maybe 1 month ago, maybe 2 months. But this was something which really helped me in my thinking about agility as it is.
Thank you. There's another person typing. We still have like 10 minutes before the next lecture kicks in, so everything is okay. Can you see the question, Marcin?
Yes, I can see it. So, so the teal organizational model. To be honest, I was a big fan of it some time ago. Right now, I'm coming to the conclusion that maybe we need some kind of the mix of this, because I know that the teal organization has a lot of benefits. Like you can even sometimes decide about the salary of people without the manager involvement. But to be honest, I'm not sure. Maybe it's just because I'm afraid to share with the others in my team how much do I earn. But this is something really hard, and maybe it's because of the comfort zone. I would say that I would go for the mix right now. So not going this far to have everything transparent. But this is just my feeling. Of course, it drives a lot of good things. Probably the better communication, better creativity of people, and for sure it teaches people self-managing and self-organization. However, right now I'm on the position in which I say I would like to go for the mix. So Radek asked the question, how to handle this situation. There are many separate AT team with product owners. Projects are cross-functional and need changes on many products. Each team has their own backlog. Goals of POs product are different. how to work on such environment. I would say, firstly, I would take a look on the product definition. If your products are really the products or maybe components, and then you need to have like projects to synchronize many components. I'm not sure about the exact situation, but from what you have written, I would say that I would start with the product definition.
Thank you. Anyone else, guys? If so, please submit your question on Slack. No more questions?
Okay. If no more questions, I will be around today for sure. So please catch up with me if you want. Yeah, thank you for having me here. That was a great experience.